back to my channel. I'm finally back with another movie review, and it's going to be a lot more consistent from here on out. After this one, I have a few others that I'm going to put up, and then I'm going to try to do maybe 1 or 2 a week. Now that I got a lot of the equipment down, the editing down, I'm going to start busting out videos like crazy. So today, what I want to talk about is one of the more controversial movies that came out this year, and that is the all-female reboot of Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters?
Conductors in the metaphysical.
Okay, cool. See ya. Hey, guys, which one of these makes me look more like a doctor?
Who was on the phone?
The Stonebrook Theater? There's a goat on the loose.
I'm gonna load up the car.
Okay.
We've been living under a rock, which maybe some people don't get on the internet as much as I do, but if you've been keeping up with somewhat the history of how this movie and how the marketing of this movie has gone down, it's been a little bit of a shitstorm, to be honest.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Ghostbusters, the original, is one of the more beloved movies out there. I've never really understood it. I didn't really grow up on Ghostbusters. I know a lot of people love it. I know a lot of people really dig the humor. They really love the cast with, Dan Aykroyd. You got Harold Ramis. You got Bill Murray, Sigourney Weaver, all that. It's a very nostalgic movie for a lot of people that grew up in the 80s. So when Paul Feig came out and announced with Sony that he was going to be doing an all-female reboot of such a beloved movie, well, a lot of people had a lot to say about that. A lot of people freaked out, and it wasn't a very good look for either the fans of the movie or the studio. And it got even worse when they released their first trailer of the all-female reboot of Ghostbusters, and it became the most disliked movie trailer in YouTube history. I think the dislikes got well over 200,000 to like 100,000 likes, and it was, and after that, every other video that even hinted at the Ghostbusters, if it talked about the new Ghostbusters, anything, there would be a mob of dislikers that would come in, leave mean comments, and dislike the hell out of any video that even hinted at the fact that it's okay to have an all-female reboot. And that was fine. Like I understood that, but then Paul Feig and Sony came out and they did something that they probably shouldn't have done, and they blamed the mass outrage on sexism, and that most people who were against the movie were sexist against the all-female cast, and that pissed off all the fanboys even more, and they dedicated their lives to tearing this movie down and making sure that Sony made no money off of it. So, on that note, let's talk about the actual movie and leave all the controversy aside. I don't want to really say my opinion on that. I didn't really get all that wrapped up into it. I didn't think the original Ghostbusters was a movie that necessarily needed such a backlash or deserved such a backlash. It's not even that memorable of a movie. I'd understand if it was like an E.T. reboot or a Jurassic Park reboot if it got a backlash like that, but the Ghostbusters, it's okay. It's a fun movie. I might get a lot of hate for that, but I've never really really enjoyed that movie. It's always been kind of corny to me, but I don't know. So let's talk about Ghostbusters 2016, directed by Paul Feig, starring Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Leslie Jones, and Kate McKinnon. Melissa McCarthy's not from SNL, but the other 3 are. And it's an all-female reboot. A lot of people thought it was a somewhat of a sequel, a passing of the torch in the same universe. And a lot of the trailers came out and kind of hinted at that. So a lot of people were confused, but in the end, it ended up being a complete remake, complete different universe, complete different Ghostbusters world. It had nothing to do with the original movies, which is kind of weird. Didn't really work out that well with that, but they should have made it more of a passing of the torch. It would have made a lot more sense. And they also had probably one of the worst marketing campaigns of all time. Some of those trailers made that movie look about as piss poor as you could make a movie look. And that added to a lot of the feel on the fire of this Ghostbusters movie. So let's talk about what really worked in that movie. One of the things that I really enjoyed, strangely enough, because a lot of people don't really like Melissa McCarthy or any of these women, just because they don't like their brand of comedy. Melissa McCarthy's known to be in a lot of crude comedies. She's known to have a lot of fart humor, a lot of fat jokes, things like that, because she is a larger woman. But a lot of people have kind of been turned off by her because she's done a lot of poor movies in the past. But actually, you could feel a really good chemistry with this cast. Kate McKinnon, Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Leslie Jones. You could tell they all really loved what they were doing. They had a great time in this movie. A lot of the chemistry was apparent when you were watching them interact, and it seemed like they're actually friends in real life, which they probably are, and that added to the movie a whole lot. It wouldn't have been as good if you couldn't really feel the chemistry between the leads in the movie. A lot of people didn't like Kate McKinnon's character. She's relatively new to movies. She's been in SNL a lot, and she's kind of a weirder character. So from what I've heard, a lot of the reviews, you either love her or you hate her. But with me, I thought the character actually worked really well within the universe that this movie was in. I mean, Kate McKinnon played essentially a weird engineer who built, I guess, equipment to catch ghosts. So obviously she's going to be a little off her rocker. And she seemed like she was having a lot of fun with the character, and she put her own spin on it. And it was a character that was unique to anything that we've ever really seen in movies like this before. So I really dug her character. I thought she fit in well with what the story was and with the kind of movie that it was. So I'm not really I don't really understand why a lot of people didn't like her character. Maybe they don't like her brand of humor. Maybe they thought she was trying too hard. I thought she was good. The humor was good in the movie. I laughed out loud a number of times. There are a few jokes that really missed their marks, but for the most part, it was a lot funnier than the trailers would have led you to believe, which was kind of crazy, because I thought this movie was going to be just a complete... I thought it was going to be really bad. I wasn't excited for it at all. The best, actually funniest part of the movie was Chris Hemsworth, and he kind of played a dumber, manly character. He was their secretary in the movie, and he was really stupid, but it worked really well. From what I've heard, it pissed off a lot of manly men out there. They thought that the men were all dumb in the movie, but I actually thought it was kind of nice, because a lot of times movies kind of dumb down the women in the past, so I thought this one actually worked pretty well. I mean, we're going to get over it, people. Or especially men out there. We're going to get over it if there is one man in a movie that is dumber than the rest, and it worked with Chris Hemsworth's character. And the best part, the thing I think I enjoyed the most about this movie was the special effects. We went and saw it in 3D. I don't necessarily like 3D, but in this movie it worked really well, because the special effects, the way they made the ghosts, it had a cool feel to it. And the 3D really brought that out. It really brought you into the movie and made you really enjoy yourself. I loved it. I thought the ghosts looked great. It was really colorful. The color schemes were good. So that was really entertaining. I think I've never really enjoyed a 3D movie unless it's animated. But for some reason, in this one, I think the 3D adds to it enough to make it a better viewing experience than if you didn't see it in 3D. So if you are planning on seeing it, I would recommend going and seeing it in 3D. So with that said, let's get to the things that didn't necessarily work in this movie. If you've probably heard by now that they brought in the original cast, and they had cameos dispersed throughout the movie. They had Bill Murray, they had Dan Aykroyd, they had a statue of Harold Ramis, and then they had... and they they didn't really work. They were really shoehorned in there, and it really, they weren't funny at all. I don't think they needed the cameos. I think they were worried that people would be pissed off if these guys didn't show up in the movies, but it didn't work. Especially Bill Murray's cameo is probably the worst one. It just wasn't funny. The storyline was pretty weak. It felt essentially like a remake of one of the originals. It wasn't very well thought out. The villain was pretty weak. You could tell they just wanted to make a Ghostbusters movie, so they threw together a storyline that was pretty easy to put together, so they could bust the movie out. And they brought in a bad guy that felt a lot like the bad guy in Ghostbusters 2, if you've seen that. He actually looked the same, too. Another thing that I noticed, the trailers pretty much spoiled the entire plot of the movie, because there's a few things that happen in the movie that are spoiled in the trailers, and I probably would have enjoyed the movie a lot more if I didn't know those certain things were going to happen. I don't want to spoil it too much, but the trailers were trying so hard to get people to be excited for this movie that they essentially spoiled much of what made the movie exciting. I was able to look past that, but it was something that trailers nowadays are doing that a lot more often than not. And I miss the days where trailers essentially got you excited for the movie without revealing too much. And these trailers spoiled so much of the movie, let alone these trailers were actually really bad and made people not want to go see the movie. And the ending, I'm not gonna spoil too much of what happened. I was enjoying the movie a lot, and then about three-fourths of the way through the movie, it started to get almost too weird to where it took me out of the movie. Things were happening. I'm like, okay, this is getting a little weird. And I understand that it's a movie about ghosts and people catching ghosts with freaking ghost guns and whatnot. But it got to a point where I was like, okay, you're taking me out of the movie now. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. And I even turned to my girlfriend and I was like, I essentially rolled my eyes. I was like, what the heck is happening now? So they needed a better storyline. They needed to end the movie better. It really killed the momentum. It got too weird too quickly and really pulled me out of the movie. I'm sure it happened to a lot of people. It started to make me sigh a little bit. So essentially, this movie was actually a lot better than I was expecting it to be. So with that all said, I feel like the movie actually worked out a lot better than a lot of people expected it to. I went in with trying not to expect too much, but trying not to really write the movie off like a lot of people already have. I believed in this cast. I think a lot of them are really funny, and I wanted to see a good movie, and I enjoyed the hell out of myself in this movie. I was laughing my ass off. I thought it was hysterical. I was smiling for the majority of the movie, and I was pleasantly surprised. So overall, I would probably give this movie a 7.3 out of 10. It's on a pretty high enjoyability scale for me, and I think it has the tendency or the potential to really go down as a cult classic once it gets past the weird controversy that's been surrounding it, which it doesn't really deserve. None of these women deserve the sexist comments or especially Leslie Jones. She's been getting not only sexist comments, but racist comments on Twitter. And this movie isn't bad enough to deserve all the hate. It's not bad at all. It's actually a fairly decent movie, and one that I'll go back and rewatch probably a lot. Which brings me to my scale of rememberability or rewatchability. Ghostbusters, I'm going to rank on a rewatchability factor, which is more for blockbuster movies. And I would say this movie probably has a 3 out of 5 on the rewatchability factor. I could see myself watching this numerous times. I think it's going to go into my collection, just like pretty much any movie. If I say I'm not going to buy a movie, that probably means that movie is pretty bad. Because I have a lot of movies, and it takes a lot for me to say that I'm not going to buy a movie, because I kind of have a problem with buying Blu-rays. And so, with that said, Ghostbusters, go see it. Give these ladies some credit. Go see their movie. They had a lot of fun. It was funny. It was enjoyable. It was a little weird at times, but it was a great movie. I thought it was well done. And to all you haters, stop crying! Come on. Just get over it. Just get over it. So, with that said, I'm signing off now. I'll be back with a review of Star Trek Beyond and Lights Out here soon. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you like it, go ahead and click like. If you dislike it, go ahead and click dislike. I really don't care. Well, I do care, but come on. Don't dislike my video. Or if you'd like to subscribe, you can do that as well. So I'll be back soon, and thank you for watching.